Yesterday I was testifying at a hearing on this something called the Home Affordable Modification. It's the loan modification program called HAMP, and everyone in the room admits that that program has not done nearly what people expected. The administration promised that there would be 4 million foreclosures prevented, and maybe there's been 100,000. It's predictable that if you're trying to solve a complex, localized problem from Washington, you're not going to be able to do it. So to me, it was perfectly predictable that they wouldn't be able to solve the problem centrally, and we have to allow more private solutions. They aren't necessarily always for-profit solutions, but Americans have an ability to solve problems, to just get together and come up with solutions if they're not imposed on them just from a central government.
Can you give me an example of one of those solutions for the housing crisis?
Well, somebody else at the hearing pointed out that over half of the loan modifications that have been taking place have been outside of this HAMP program. They've found that in spite of the government subsidies and incentives that are provided with the program, there are so many strings attached and so many rules that they can't even operate as effectively, that they operate more effectively if they just leave the government program aside and do it on their own. So that would be my solution for that. And so if any stimulus, I would have preferred to see things like cuts in the payroll tax so that you would create more private sector jobs. I mean, the private sector has lost, what, 5-6 million jobs. Public sector maybe has lost on net, 50,000, 100,000. So it's just, there's just not, that's a lot of balance.
What would you say to those that would say the private sector is in the business of being in business, of making money, and maybe not necessarily creating jobs in this new economy?
Well, I think the first thought in the private sector ought not to be creating jobs, but you create jobs as a side effect of innovation and growth. So the job creation comes mostly from small to mid-sized firms that are rapidly growing. And so we need a new wave of innovation. I don't think government can do much to create that. Again, I think maybe cutting some payroll taxes, sort of making it easier to start small businesses. That's the type of thing that it can do. But it's more a matter of getting out of the way in that regard.
Now, I've heard you say innovation several times throughout this interview. Describe to me what you believe that innovation economy is going to look like.
Well, I think probably things like biotechnology. It may be several years off. I guess the reason I'm being hesitant is it's hard to know what's going to come first. Is it going to be biotechnology? Is it going to be nanotechnology? Is it going to be computers? Is it going to be energy?
But technology is the key word here?
Well, perhaps, or it could even be new ways of doing business, innovative business processes. It's hard to predict. That's a point that we've found, is that if you knew where innovation was going to come from, it wouldn't be innovation. It would just be what somebody expected to happen, and so it's very hard to predict exactly where it's going to be. But I think over a 10-year horizon, it's probably likely to come from things like, being able to really control more life forms, so that maybe you'll have life forms that can, create energy more efficiently, or you'll have, new amazing new cures for diseases or ways to reverse aging. I mean, but again, you can't. If we knew how these things were going to happen, they would already be here.
We are starting to see some of the first signs that possibly the economy could be coming back to life a bit. Do you think the signs of rebound are premature?
I'm on the optimistic side, and that's because over the last 2 or 3 quarters, productivity growth and profits have been high. And that's really what firms need to expand. The reason they've been cutting employment is that they're just, they were in survival mode. Are we going to survive? But we've had some pretty strong profits and some productivity growth. And so now I think a lot of these companies are going to start looking around and saying, okay, we have survived. We don't have to be cut to the bone. We can now think of some new projects. And most people in today's economy are not sort of assembly line workers, building more widgets. They're people who are being brought in to create new projects, new processes, new improvements. So it's sort of discretionary whether you hire these people or not. If you're feeling like you're profitable and you see some opportunities, you'll hire people to try to create those opportunities and take advantage of them. If you're just in survival mode, you'll cut to the bone. And I think we're past the survival mode for a lot of companies. So I think I am sort of optimistic that, without being able to say specifically, here's this area that's going to grow, that area is going to grow, I think the general increase in productivity and profits has put firms in a better position now, and I think they will be willing to start trying to build up what we call organizational capital. They're build up their capacity to create new products and to do things more efficiently. They're not just going to be focused on cutting costs.
It sounds as if any of this is to come to fruition, workforce development is going to be key.
Yeah, the labor force is definitely going to change. Old jobs, for the most part, are not coming back. And I think basically what's going on is that the economy is transitioning more quickly than the labor force is capable of changing. So that some of the older jobs are going away faster than, in some sense, than newer jobs are being created or that people are adapting to it. No one has the key to this workforce adaptivity because people have tried training programs for a long time and they have not been successful. I think most people really learn on the job. And so it's just going to be this gradual process where as firms sort of get out of their bunker and say, okay, now it's safe to hire a few extra people, that those people will start to get trained and then you'll start to pull more people in the economy. I think it's just going to be a gradual kind of self-bootstrapping process. There's not going to be any magic policy solution or training solution for it.